Thaco Thoughts with Rob, and of course, I am Rob. Today, we're going to be talking about scrolls, how to make them, and how to use them, both as a player and as a dungeon master. The first thing we need to discuss is what a scroll is. A scroll is a spell written on a special type of paper using special ingredients, everything from a special ink pen that's specifically used for that particular spell, to special ingredients. In order to actually use the spell, though, first a read magic spell must be cast upon the scroll in order to interpret it. This, of course, does not trigger the spell unless the spell or the scroll is a cursed scroll, whereby then, as soon as you try to identify it, the curse is activated. On each scroll, there is between 1 and 6 spells. It could be the same spell or it could be various spells. What spells they are is, of course, randomly generated by the dungeon master. Creating scrolls is actually a pretty involved process. It takes 1 day per level of the spell. Now, if it's a protection spell, no matter what the protection spell is, it takes 6 days to create. The roll to see if you succeed or not is, of course, done by the dungeon master secretly and at the end of the process. The percentage chance for a successful create scroll roll begins at 80%, plus your level minus the level of the spell. So, for example, let's say that you're a 10th level wizard wanting to create a 2nd level spell scroll. First, you add your level to the 80%, which is 90 now. Then you subtract 2% for the level of the spell. So that is 88. So you have an 88 chance, like a 10th level wizard has an 88% chance to create a 2nd level spell scroll. You can also add or subtract percentile numbers for, let's say, either extra good quality materials or even maybe subpar material. So if you have the quell of a golden, goose or something like that you used to write the scroll, the dungeon master might give you several points percentile wise to reflect the superior material components. So what happens if the roll fails? What happens if now remember, this is a secret roll by the dungeon master. So if he rolls and it's over the percentile, that means that there's something wrong, and now the entire scroll is cursed. This can be a lot of things. If you go to page 197 of the Dungeon Master's Guide, there is actually a list of suggested curses that could befall somebody who actually reads the scroll. And it's several different things. Some of them, it's like, oh, your body hair grows 1 inch every minute, or you might lose some strength or something like that. And of course, since this is a curse, it can be, of course, remedied with a remove curse spell. Now, one of the things I am kind of confused about is that it describes it as a cursed scroll versus a cursed spell on a scroll. Because remember, you can have up to 6 spells on a scroll. So let's say the dungeon master is making his rolls, and let's say there are four spells on the scroll, and let's say the third one he fails. Okay, so that's one roll curses. Does that one roll curse the entire scroll, or just if you use that particular spell? Now, like I said, it says cursed scroll, so it's sort of like basically, what they say, one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch, and this might be to that effect. So even failing once could basically ruin um, weeks worth of work, especially because remember you have to enter uh, transcribe each one of these spells, and each one of those spells on that scroll takes quite a while. So if you, let's say, have like six spells that you put on that scroll, and the sixth one you fail, that now the entire scroll just one big giant cursed item, or just when you get to to that spell. That's what I'm a little confused about. So if anybody can clarify that for me, that would be great. The next big question is exactly who can use scrolls. So obviously, a wizard can use wizard scrolls. A cleric can use cleric scrolls, um, and anyone can use protection scrolls. So let me repeat: anyone can use a protection scroll. Not only can anyone use a protection scroll, you don't even need a read magic to use it. Now, I was thinking about this. Why are protection scrolls allowed to be used by anyone? And I looked back on it, and so you have that 6 day, like it takes 6 days to make a protection scroll no matter what. So what I'm thinking is, because of that dedicated 6 days, it's kind of compensating for non-magic user types to be able to use that scroll. So that's the only explanation I can come up with. Um, and I'm sure maybe in some Dragon magazine it's talked about somewhere, but it doesn't really go into the why that anyone can use a protection scroll, but you can. Another class that can use scrolls starting at 10th level is the Thief. So the Thief can start using both the Priest and Wizard spells, scrolls, but there is a 25% chance that the Thief will mess it up. And last but not least, of course, the Bard can use scrolls as well. Now, surprisingly, the Paladin and the Ranger cannot use clerical scrolls. Kind of weird. You would think that the Paladin would be able to use clerical scrolls, but they can't. Now, one of the cool things that a lot of people may have not noticed is that low level wizards can actually cast higher level spells off of scrolls. It is dangerous though, and you don't want to get go too far out of your wheelhouse. But if you are, let's say, a second level magic user and you find a fifth level scroll, you do have a chance of casting that spell. But like I said, there is a percentage chance of you messing it up depending on the difference between your level and the spell level. And if you want to look at the math on that, then look at page or table 112 in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it'll take you through what happens if a wizard fails his roll trying to cast a higher level spell. So now that we got the technicalities out of the way, let's kind of talk about how a scroll can add to the story. Okay, most people in most games, you find a scroll and it's just an item. You throw it in your bag, that's it. Okay, uh, just a tool. But the thing about it is that a lot goes into the making of a scroll. Time, resources, um, even the gathering of components can have a story to it. A scroll could have, especially a high level scroll, could have all types of story, background story attached to it. So, when I was looking at the creation process, noticing all of the special items that you would need, and a lot of it's not impossible to find, like, for instance, a special quill pen, special paper, special ink. A magic user is going to need a lot of it because he can't use a lot of this stuff on the same spell. So he'll need a brand new quill pen in order to write that, continue to write a different spell, because the energy from the previous spell is now clinging to that quill, making it useless for anything else. So this is where low level adventurers come in. Okay, if I am a high level wizard and I am busy in my tower, and I don't have time to go out collecting strange quill pens and getting special paper and things of that nature, I'm going to hire a group of adventurers to do that for me. Now, this isn't like going out and say, hey, I need you to go to the store and buy me stuff. No, this is, I need you to quest for these items. I need you to go to the griffin nest and pluck a feather from the griffin at this nest, so I can basically write a fly spell or whatever it happens to be. There might be special ingredients that is needed for the ink, which basically could send players off into the wilderness. Same thing with the paper. All of these things, even the tube might be special that you keep the scroll in. So all of these things can be a very lucrative business for players, just going out, getting hired by wizards to go gather this stuff. And of course, they can also gather common spell components for wizards and things of that nature. So, like I said, if I'm a wizard, I'm not going to be wasting my time looking for this stuff when I can just hire some adventurers to do it for me. And once you start getting into high levels, I mean, you probably have money to burn. So why not pay some low level dudes to go out and do your special grocery shopping for you? One of the other interesting items I should mention before I forget is the treasure map. Now, if you look at the description of scrolls, they lump in treasure maps to scrolls. It is a non magical item, but a treasure map is considered so special in the context of AD&D that it's treated like almost like a scroll, because in order to even read the treasure map, you need to cast a read magic or maybe a comprehend language spell on it. So that's one of the things you may need to remember, and maybe you can combine the two. Maybe maybe on the scroll there are not only spells, but maybe there is also a treasure map on that scroll. So hey, just kind of combine everything into one. Or maybe the scroll is like the treasure map is actually a map to a library of scrolls. Can you imagine that? Walking into a library with thousands of scrolls that have been collected by wizards from all over the world. Now, one of the concepts that I was reading that actually kind of intrigued me that would make scrolls even crazier. What if a scroll, when you read it, the spell only disappears temporarily? Like, for example, what if there is a scroll with a fireball on it, and the scroll basically it goes blank because you read the scroll, the spell disappears. But what if after, let's say, a given amount of time, let's say a week, the spell reappears on the scroll? Now that would be a very, very useful scroll item. Yeah, and like I said, I read that in the I believe in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I was like, wow, that is a pretty interesting concept, a renewable scroll. Hmm. Now, of course, if you're gonna have a renewable scroll, it needs to be extra special. Not just a feather from a griffin, but maybe the feather from the first griffin or something like that. Maybe you have to go into some sort of dream realm where this symbol of the avatar of all griffins is there, and that's how you get this super special item to create a renewable scroll. But anyway, that's probably for higher level play. So, as kind of a final reminder about how useful scrolls are, especially for low level wizards. So, a low level wizard, you only have so many spells that you can memorize, especially if you're first or second level. And that's where scrolls come in to bolster your abilities. Okay. Now, as a dungeon master, a lot of times for a first level wizard, I will give them a scroll with several spells on it, so they have some backup. So they're not just like they shoot off their one or two spells and then they can't do anything else magically. So um, load those low level wizards up with scrolls. Now, another thing that some people may need to loosen up on, and I know there's a lot of DMs out there that are vehemently against magic shops, but I would counter that having a scroll and potion shop, it should not be that big of a deal, especially in um, a world where magic is prevalent. Because I'm thinking about it, if you're a wizard, right? I mean, one of the things you may do to supplement your income is to create scrolls and to brew potions, right? I mean, you might want to make a profit. So why not? Why would these wizards not open up a shop to sell scrolls and to sell potions? Maybe, I mean, I'm not saying you go in and there's like a +5 Holy Avenger, but what if you go into a shop that's dedicated to, let's say, first, second, and third level wizard scrolls? Or maybe even, or you can go to the local temple and buy clerical scrolls and potions. I just don't see the big deal with that. And like I said, I understand because I've been in games where you go in and the shop is filled with +3 long swords and all that stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just having available, especially to low level parties, a bit of one and done magic, scrolls and potions. But anyway, I will leave it off there. And as a reminder, this and other podcasts can be found on, of course, YouTube and Spotify. And this episode was brought to you by Evil Dungeon Master Vince. And with that, I will bid you farewell.